The Angry Chicken is a production of Amove TV. Bookmark amove.tv for more gaming and esports shows. The Angry Chicken is directly supported by listeners like you via patreon.com/TAC.
Everyone, get in here! Ready for action! I've got the beast in my sight.
A podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is The Angry Chicken.
Freshly cracked from a particularly perturbed egg, it's time for a new episode of The Angry Chicken. I'm Garrett Weinzerl, he's Willie Dills Gregory, and she's Jocelyn Moffat. Guys, it's a new Tuesday.
Hooray!
Indeed.
You gotta warn us when you're gonna do some crazy new intro, man.
That's for me right off, too.
My goal with this show is to make you two laugh. Preferably both of you. I'll take one of you. So.
Well,
You know what?
I'm
You're gonna
I'm
fail.
like a
I'm never gonna
given,
laugh again.
So, yeah.
Never laughing again on this show. Oh, I almost did it.
Oh,
Not gonna do it.
All right,
Careful.
fine.
Hold
We're
on.
gonna be Van Damme on this
You
episode.
go ahead and say whatever you want, Garrett. I'm gonna take a nice long sip of this cup of coffee, and you just see if you can make me laugh.
Y'all gets balanced.
Oh no, I'm not gonna
damn.
take out my screen.
All right,
I'm
fair
not
enough.
committed to the joke that much, but nice work. Nice work. That would have got me.
Fantastic. Well, guys, we are here. I feel like we just did one of these because we got together this past Thursday and we did a special episode all about the arena announcement that went out on the Prime feed. And instead of it being the usual 20-minute brawl talk, it turned into what felt like a full damn episode of this show.
it was really close. It was only missing emails.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it was an hour long.
Yeah, it was a good length. So when we get into news today and we don't talk about the arena announcement, that's because we just did. So just in case you missed it, you probably didn't because it's on the Prime feed. But just in case, go back, check it out. Had a good time talking about the arena announcement, specifically with Mr. Dills over here, just laying down knowledge bomb after knowledge bomb, and Jocelyn being like, "Garrett, it's not that bad. Garrett, seriously, it's not that bad. Calm down, you cranky old man."
I'm curious to see when these changes come. If you guys play more arena, I think you guys are the litmus test for this, because arena players are just going to play arena anyway.
I mean,
right?
I'll tell you right now, I'm definitely going to play more arena within like the first month of it happening.
Sure.
But I foresee myself falling off if something else doesn't change. If we don't get more features in the
Sure.
future.
And I don't know. It's not like bad cards are keeping me out of arena. Bad skill on my end is keeping me out of arena. So
Fair enough.
unless Hearthstone like patches it to like give Joss more skill, then I don't think that
No,
I'm gonna
see,
be
Joss,
in there.
you
Well,
patch that. Jocelyn.
Actually,
you make that patch happen.
well, I was going to argue. Actually, it's fine print in the next patch notes, which is funny. There's fine print in the patch notes all this time. They weren't actually leaving things out. We just couldn't see it. But there's a little fine print, Jocelyn, that says Ixar is being patched into Jocelyn's basement, where he will teach you how to play arena correctly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it.
No promises
There's
for how
too many
long.
tools out there, Jocelyn. There's no more excuses. You just don't. You're just not willing to try. I see.
Yeah, I was
see how
gonna
it
say, yeah. What if I just don't like it?
is. Jocelyn, the non-tryhard. You just don't like losing. You would like.
Yeah,
arena
that's
if you were-
true. That's really true.
I
get
would
would have to be constructed.
I would say I at this point fall into the camp of I just don't like it, but yeah.
No, Dills is right. I'm very competitive. So when I try something over and over and over and I don't really get that much better, then yeah, no. At least in constructed, I have the crutch, I guess, of saying like I know the deck is good, so therefore I can get good at this deck, and it's repeatable, and I feel like I can learn.
There's
I
less
don't
of
get that feeling in arena.
you have less doubt going
Yes,
on. There's less
exactly.
doubt to contend with.
But that's But see, that's also like I think there's some people will make the argument that constructed. It's like, well, I just use someone else's deck, and then now I'm better at constructed. But in arena, you can't do that. So like there's like
Yeah,
a
but you
higher
can use-
skill cap because you have to build the deck every single time, right? So it's interesting to hear both sides of it because
yeah, it's
I don't know. I
So
think
high
it's just two
skill cap
two
and
sets of the
deck building
brain or whatever, right?
Yeah. But actually, like playing and piloting, I don't know
Yeah.
if there's necessarily I mean, it's still the same game.
Sure. No, but I think there's a lot of skill to that too, and that's a lot of people take that for granted. Of course, now there's so much RNG, and we're gonna talk about that stuff later. But
Are we gonna
like
exactly
there's
wave the arms the whole time?
Sure.
Dude, there's so much
but
RNG.
it's like two different ways to work out the same muscle in your brain, right? It's like one is like because you play this very control-y style in arena, and the guys who break that, like Shady Bunny playing aggro hunter in arena, is like everyone else is like, how is he so good at hunter? And he's like, yeah, because I just play aggro hunter in arena. What's up? And he's the guy who like breaks that, right?
He goes in with a
So,
plan and he
it's just-
executes that plan.
Yeah. And you can do that, but most people don't think you can. It's very interesting to hear all the sides. That's why I like to play all the types.
Yeah,
But I don't play arena nearly as much because it kind of sucks right now.
and I feel like there's just such a barrier to entry, or at least it's way more costly to go into arena and to try to learn because
You're gonna run out of gold real
every
fast.
time. Exactly. Because
Yeah.
if you're not hitting the point where you're earning enough gold to do your next arena run, then which is what happens to me. It's like I don't want to sink all of my gold into arena. I'd rather go buy 10 packs. So yeah,
I
that's
think a lot of
kind
players,
of the wall I
think
come
a lot
up
of players
against.
are like you.
Yeah.
A lot of players.
I would argue that it's a game with multiple modes, and you can choose how to play it how you see fit.
And
No.
I wonder
No
why.
way.
Like, is it just because arena is so rewarding in terms of golden packs? Like, why is there such a big kind of barrier to entry into arena? Why is there a gate at all?
Well, 150 gold is a pretty big chunk of gold. So, you know,
So yeah, is it
it's-
just because there's
the-
big rewards, or
I mean, if we're talking about the design of arena, like if we're going back to like, hey, Hearthstone's brand new. What's arena? It's you put up you're buying in for something, whether it's real money or gold, so that they can offer prizes that are worth going after. But you have to perform to get prizes
but yeah, you
that
have
are
to
worth
be
it.
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
but not
that's why
actually
there's a
though.
gate.
The math has been altered because before everyone was worried about the math to go infinite, and the latest like big bunch of statistics that came out were just about breaking even. So the 150 gold, as far as it being worth your pack, you actually only need to average between 2 and 3 wins, and you're actually getting like above average value back for your 150 gold. You're getting a card pack which is 100 gold.
But you
and
have
you're
to
getting-
get 2 or 3 wins, which some of us struggle with.
Yeah, but if you applied yourself at all, Jocelyn, you would definitely
Yeah,
average than 2 to 3 wins.
I'm with Dills on this one, Jocelyn. I believe in you. I mean, clearly, I mean, talking to you, we can deduce that it's not really your bag, not your cup of tea,
Yeah.
as it were. But
Which is funny because I remember playing a lot of arena like back before even Goblins versus Gnomes. Like there was a point where there was a couple of months where I was just trying to learn the game a little bit better, and arena was the way that I was doing it. But I've
It was
totally
like the most
fallen
popular
off.
mode for a long
Yeah.
time. When the game first came out, I mean, the biggest streamers were all just arena streamers. It was Trump, Hafu, and Kriparian.
Mhm.
And now the arena streamers are like this little cult, this little niche off to the side, except for Krip. Krip is still like the gold
Brought up
standard, and he still plays a lot of arena. But yeah, it's funny. It's like the general community has kind of, I think, moved away from it.
Mhm.
And that's probably just because it hasn't changed enough. Really,
I would
mean,
argue it's because Blizzard's moved away from it.
Yeah. Yep. Makes a lot of sense.
I think
All
if
of this
there was,
covered in our last episode.
Yes.
by the way.
Yeah, we're kind
I
of.
think if there was a free practice arena that like there is the like the casual ranked mode where you don't win or lose any stars.
Okay,
I feel
yeah.
like if there was a free to enter casual arena that didn't offer me any rewards, but like I could complete quests, then I would do that to learn before going in and paying money to get bigger rewards. For sure.
Interesting.
I like that. We can. I can.
I
get
wonder
behind
how
that.
many people would actually play that, though. I mean, I guess probably a lot. Like we've said, the queuing times are never really an issue, I think, in Hearthstone, no matter what they add at this point. There's enough players playing at it, all hours of the day. So if you had to wait 45 seconds for a queue to pop in Hearthstone, would that really turn you off from something either?
Not if I was trying to learn, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Let me ask you this
I
question.
would definitely sit there for 45 seconds.
Do any of you play Heroes of the Storm?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Then you're
yeah.
not going to have a problem with that.
I sit there for minutes. People in League of Legends sit there for 10 minutes waiting
Yep.
for queues to
Do you
pop,
play Dota?
know,
Do you
so-
play League of Legends? Do you play Heroes of the
Yeah.
Storm?
If you play Smite, sometimes it takes like half an hour for your queue to pop.
Are you serious? Oh man.
I mean, that's because you're playing like a 4th tier MOBA at that point. But
Oh, snap. Burn. Smite burn.
Bring it on. Come at me, bros. I say that because there's 3 of you and you're not going to.
Oh, that's why our queues take so long. We can't even make full teams.
I'm kidding. I'm smack talking just for my buddy Patrick. I hope he hears this and gets angry at me. So, anyways, yeah, that I think that's a good point, Joss. I don't think we've ever brought that up. The option of a potential free practice arena where you can't do anything except get daily quests done. I'd be down for that. And let's just add that to the list of things I would like under the arena button as options when you click arena, as opposed to there only being one thing.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Click the arena button and then choose what style of limited you want to play. I would love it.
Yep.
Make it happen.
I can dig it. I can dig it. You know what else I can dig before we jump in the news? I can dig new Patreon goals for us over at patreon.com/TAC. We had voting a while back for our next milestone. We were asking our patrons whether they wanted Cluck the Meta videos once a month next, or whether they wanted Arena videos once a month next. And the voting was basically down the middle, 50-50. Damn close. It was so close that we decided not to make a decision. So our next Patreon goal is going to be for both Collect the Meta and Arena videos, and we will alternate once a month. So 1 month we'll do Arena, the next month we'll do Collect the Meta, the month after that we'll do Arena, the month after that we'll do Collect the Meta, unless we hit the goal after that, in which case we'll just do 2 videos a month,
each month,
one of each. So if you're interested in that, head on over to patreon.com/TAC right now, where you can see all of the details. And we are actually not that far away from the next goal. So go check it out, everyone, and huge fat thank you to all of our patrons who are already supporting us and have already unlocked a lot of extra content for the show. That's why we got together Thursday and talked for another extra hour. There was a lot of Angry Chicken last week, but
if you want to see Jocelyn get forced to play Arena,
yeah,
here's how you do it.
That's a really good point. Yeah, you can. Jocelyn, apparently people can pay you enough to play Arena. You know how
apparently
that age-old, like, you couldn't pay me enough to do it.
Though.
And
6 times a year.
in this particular instance, you absolutely can pay Jocelyn enough to play Arena with 2 other friends that we're going to sit around, pal around, and have a good time. So, I mean, to make you
solo, I think you should solo those shows, though.
Oh.
Me and Garrett will just take the day off.
One of them at one point will make you solo. No, we're not gonna do that. No, it's okay, Jocelyn.
Well, I mean, I could do it. It would probably be kind of entertaining because everyone would just be like, "She's so bad and wrong all the time." Does she even know what she's saying? It would be a different kind of entertainment.
Well, that's just another milestone we'll set, which will be titled "How Do I Even Arena," hosted by Jocelyn Moffat.
Oh man!
But yeah, totally.
I mean, I picked Arena with a blindfold on my stream. You got to be able to do better than that.
That's how I feel even when I don't have a blindfold on. Like,
how many times did you not even click a card? Is my question. If you did
What's
it
that?
How many times did you just not click a card because you were freaking blindfolded?
Well, I actually had somebody on Skype like guiding me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
Hot,
otherwise
cold.
it's just gonna be me like never picking any cards.
That's fantastic.
Although, I mean, you as you mouse over them, you can hear like an indicator, right? But you just So that is possible to do. I think Amaz has done it, but I was like, I'm not putting my chat through this. I'm just not gonna do that.
You need a rumble mouse that vibrates when you go over.
As you get
over
closer,
a card. Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
I'm in on it. There is one more announcement to make before we get into this week's Hearthstone news. Jocelyn, what's going on with the next taco?
Yes, speaking of Patreon goals, that is one goal that we have unlocked. The summer was kind of crazy for, I know, me and the guys, and we had CreateCon and everything else. So Taco Summer technically is going to take place in fall by 2 days, but we are still going to have a Taco Fall as well. But yeah, so Taco Summer is happening. It's going to be September, I believe, 24th, possibly the 25th. If you ever emailed TAC and said that you wanted to be a volunteer, check your emails because I sent out a questionnaire today just to ask you date availability and what exactly you wanted to help with in the tournament, as well as best way to contact you. So you should have that questionnaire in your inbox. If you have never actually volunteered for Taco before, then check out my Twitter at Joss Plays, Joce Plays, and I tweeted out the link to the questionnaire there as well if you would like to help us out. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to spend the whole entire day playing Hearthstone. It's going to be standard. It's open to North America only. And yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and if I don't think we actually said what taco means, so if you missed any of the previous ones, taco stands for the Angriest Chicken Open, which is our community tournament. How many players are we doing this
I
time?
always just assume people know what I'm talking about when I say, yeah, I'm doing taco on the weekend.
How many players is
Okay.
it this time, Jocelyn?
Excuse me, 128.
Okay, so same as last time. So
Yeah.
it's open. Patrons get to sign up first, and then we just make it live for whoever the heck wants to show up and sign up. So
Exactly. So signups are going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week, and then the tournament is going to be on the weekend. So look for your signups on the 20th, 21st, and 22nd for a tournament on either the 24th or 25th. I will let everyone know 100% what the dates are. I just want to give the volunteers a chance to kind of let me know what their availability is before we finalize things. But I think it will probably be, looking at the results so far, the 24th, which is the Saturday.
awesome. Go check it out. The Angriest Chicken Open Summer Asterix coming soon. Let's get into this week's Hearthstone news.
Good news, everyone!
We're getting a welcome bundle.
Yay! This goes right up there with Recruit a Friend with why 3 years later.
It's okay though. It's okay. I've been a negative Nancy for the last 3 days. I'm gonna shake it off and say, when my reaction is, why didn't this happen sooner? It means they're doing something right. Damn it. So yeah, we've had a lot of talk on the show, more so in the first 20 weeks of doing the Angry Chicken. But we've definitely had a lot of talk in the past about why doesn't Blizzard sell bundles? Why don't they sell deck like pre-made decks that you can pay for, a la Magic? So it looks like this is just one tiny little toe in that pond, I guess. We're getting the welcome bundle. It will be coming in Hearthstone's next update. It will cost you $4.99 US dollars. You will get 10 classic packs for your $4.99, and you will also get one random class legendary from the classic set. So Tyrion, Grom, Cenarius, Prophet Velen, Antonidas, Edwin, King Crush, Jaraxxus, or Alakir!
Which are all, except for pretty much King Crush, very good cards. So
Yeah.
Poor King Crush.
Poor King Crush.
Do you remember when we thought King Crush was just a total monster?
Well,
he is a
yeah.
monster.
That's before you really understood how the game works. But yeah. This is a really good deal, actually, and I'll probably just buy this.
Oh,
anyway.
absolutely.
Oh yeah, I think everyone should buy it because if nothing
Yeah.
else, you're getting dust. The only thing is that if you you can get duplicates. So even if you only own Tyrion, there's nothing to say that you won't get Tyrion out of this.
Sure.
Although
I mean,
boo-hoo, you have two Tyrions.
the only thing
but-
the only thing better than one Tyrion is two Tyrions. I mean,
Yeah.
So I have a question. I don't know if you guys know the answer to. So I have, just on my BattleNet account, I have a North American, an EU, and a Asian account, right? Can I buy it on each one of those? Do you guys know?
I
or
would-
only on one because my account is the BattleNet account?
I don't know definitively, but I would assume
Yeah.
that because your card collection is unique to each region, that this purchase would
That
be
you could
unique
buy
to
it
each
3
region.
times? Yeah.
Yeah, because I think you have to buy things like I'm thinking the hero stuff. Like if I have a certain hero portrait on one, I think I have to buy it across regions.
Yeah, you
Don't
have
you?
to. I mean, you have to buy adventures across regions. So
Yeah.
So I'm gonna guess yes, you do.
Yeah.
But I'll test it. I'm gonna buy it on EU first, and then I'll try to buy it on NA.
It's time for some science!
Yay.
Yeah.
Money science! Very.
I will spend an extra $5 for you fine people out there to make sure we know the answer to this. But yeah, I'm guessing you can spend that. Why would they limit you to spending money?
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Yep.
Like, no, you can only spend $5 one time.
Well, they are limiting you though, because you
Little
can
bit.
only buy it once per account. So
Well, per-
little bit of a limit.
Yeah. Well,
Only because it's such a good deal. And
Well-
Yeah, they don't want you to be a new player, come in and just buy this thing 15 times on an account. Be like, all right, cool.
well, that
Don't
would
have to pay for any packs anymore.
in a perfect world where you're getting where you have every classic card. Hell, let's even say you just have every classic legendary. you're paying $5 for at the minimum 800 dust. So you're putting a dollar amount on Blizzard themselves would be answering the age-old question: how much is dust worth per dollar?
Sure.
So that's why it makes complete sense why you can only buy this once. So there is that. Also, we haven't had a chance to talk about Batstone, Fire Bat's tournament that he is putting on, which is running card bans. And he said we'll focus on quote unquote weird formats. The format of this, the first one anyway, I would argue is very normal, other than the bans. So the community.
But bans are a big deal. I mean,
yes, they're a huge deal.
Like we talked about Arena for an hour last week, and some people were like, "Oh, it's not enough of a change." Like bans is a big change. Bans is a huge change.
Well, and not only that, but he's doing like community voted, player voted bans, right? So this isn't even.
So he did community bans, and then they revealed now that each player also gets one ban. So not only is there like a list of, I think it's 20 cards or something that are banned. Now each player who's been invited has also banned one more card, and so we're seeing things banned like Innervate is banned, Ragnaros is banned.
Oh, I didn't see that. Did that just come out today?
Yeah, I thought there was a whole big list of voting, but only the top 5 were banned.
No, this is just came out today, I believe. It's on the it's on the Hearthstone subreddit right now. Batstone Twist competitors each get a ban. So you can see Tice banned Doomhammer.
Okay, this just got
Dark Shark Councilman.
Oh, this just got way more interesting.
Chalky banned Ice Block. Like you can see what Chalky's like. I don't want to try to kill you, and then I didn't actually kill you. Like no, screw that. Which it does mean that we won't see things like Freeze Mage will be not a deck you can play. And what's really cool about this, because there are so many bans, I mean there's a ton of bans, that you won't see any familiar archetypes really. You're just gonna see all brand new decks, and we don't know which ones are gonna be good or not. So that's really cool. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how this pans out because we've talked about it on the show. It was like forever ago. Chan Man put on a tournament and he was going to have bans, and Blizzard did not allow him to have bans because of how much money there was up for grabs in the prize pool. Yeah,
I wish Blizzard would kind of stay out of that kind of stuff unless it's an official Blizzard tournament, right? Unless they're awarding points, I get it, but
and I think that's the thing. Back when that happened, they didn't have points, right? It was all just money. This was pre-BlizzCon points, when they said no bans. So now they have a way to say like, okay, that's a Blizzard sanctioned tournament because you can win points. This one isn't. Do whatever the hell you want.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Let's talk about the community ban cards though, because hey, can you guys venture any guess what the most voted for card was?
It's Yogg, clearly. Every single time, all day, every day. And I'm with this. I've been playing a lot of Yogg Mage lately, and it's a really good deck. And I have a really insane win rate with it. And I even tooled with it, I toyed with it, I messed with some things. And I think I actually made the deck worse with the changes I made. And yet I still have like a 90% win rate with this deck because Yogg just wins me games I'm not supposed to win. And it's at the point now where when I play Yogg, I expect him to win me the game. It's that crazy how Yogg is just better almost all the time than he's just the results are always good. And so we'll talk about this a little bit, this article in PC Gamer, but the author there had a really interesting idea. So it's Jesse Markzik, I think. And his idea was that if Yogg dies, all the spells stop. Right? And I think that's actually an interesting way to kind of balance Yogg, because it is crazy. If Yogg gets stolen by Sylvanas, all of a sudden the opposing player is casting all the spells,
He's casting
right?
the spells, yeah.
So why the hell is it that Yogg dies and the spells just continue going? It would be really interesting to see that if Yogg died based on the spells that were cast, all of a sudden everything would just stop. That would, I think, actually make Yogg a bad card that wouldn't be played anymore.
Well, yeah, because they actually said they designed him to die. They changed his stat so that he would kill himself, essentially, more often than he wouldn't.
Yeah, 7/5 stat line. Yeah.
So, I mean, he can kill himself with a fireball.
He does kill himself quite often, but sometimes it doesn't matter because he also clears the entire board, draws you a bunch of cards. Some of those cards might be drawn that aren't even out of your deck, so they don't even cause you to fatigue or anything. They just create new cards, and there's just all this crap that happens.
Yeah, and then he hails an Uber, he goes over to your mom's house, and he punches her in the face.
Yeah. And like the thing is, so the deck I'm playing has so much removal that can also be used as burn, that all that really matters for me is that I get this really fast kind of tempo mage start, and then the mid game I either have you really low, and then I just start sending fireballs and Firelands portals to your face, or if like somehow you weather my early storm, then I just go, okay, well, Yogg and Arcane Giants will pull me back, and I will win the game that way.
Yep.
So it shouldn't be as much of a break the glass, get Yogg as it is, and I'm really excited to see what these guys come up with when they know Yogg is not possible, because that means like they don't have to counterplay Yogg, right? So
it's going to be really interesting too to see when you're actually looking at what decks you're going to ban, like because are you going to ban Warrior knowing that there's no Fiery War Axe? Like, I don't know. I think that knowing what cards aren't available for what classes is really going to make us see classes that don't get played a lot, because Warrior gets banned all the freaking time. Mm-hmm. But so I'm interested to see that part of the tournament, to see like who builds what decks and then what ends up getting banned. It's also really interesting to see that the Flame Wreath Faceless isn't banned. Everyone complains about the 4-mana 7/7, and
there's no randomness there. The pros don't mind that.
Well,
They just don't want to lose to Tuskar pulling a Totem Golem.
And all of the community votes weren't necessarily for random cards either. Yes, Tuskar, Totemic, and Barnes were banned, but so was Fiery War Axe and Call of the Wild, completing the 5 community
Call of the
ban
Wild
cards.
makes me so sad.
No, that card is stupid. That card is really dumb, and I'll tell you why. Like, Animal Companion is more powerful for 3 mana than it's supposed to be, right? The beast that comes out.
Yeah.
But it's random, and that's what makes it okay, right? You got 3 possible outcomes. One of them being a 4/4 with taunt for 3 mana and no drawback. And that's ridiculous. If that was just a card, you'd be like, this card is stupid. This shouldn't exist. What Call of the Wild does is for 1 less mana, you don't even have to pay 9, which is what it would cost to cast 3 Animal Companions. You remove all randomness, you get all of them, and instead of Huffer being a 4/2 for 3, it's already a 5/2. So it already does 5 damage. And then the 4/4 is already a 5/4 because Leok's there. That card should cost 13 mana. That card should cost 13 mana. Seriously.
Do you remember when we said that we didn't know if it was going to be good because you had to wait so long to cast it, and that's not the way that people had been playing Hunter? Do you remember those days?
Yep, never mind.
I
Turns out
remember
it's totally
those days.
fine. Hey guys, who'd have thought that Hunter now has some of the strongest late game in the whole freaking game? They already had Savannah Jaime, and that's part of it. I think Savannah Jaime might be part of the problem with Call of the Wild, like the fact that they have Call of the Wild and Savannah Jaime. If they just had Savannah Jaime or they just had Call of the Wild, I don't think it would be so bad. But they have 4 cards past turn 6 that are nuts, absolutely nuts.
Yeah, and now they also have one of the stickiest curves in the low and mid game of any class. I mean, when you Infested Wolf is ridiculous. And when you have Houndmaster to follow up Infested Wolf and you're going to have a beast on board, it's like now I'm trying to deal with all this stuff. And then here comes Savannah Jaime. Oh, no. And then here comes Call of the Wild. And it's
that's...
yeah.
Yeah, that's worst case scenario when they're drawing perfect and on curve and stuff.
Because when you just had Face Hunter, it was like, okay, well, my strategy now is to stop, do everything I can to prevent face damage. Their weakness is that all their minions have really weak bodies, and now it's like that strategy's out the window. Now it's just every turn. Here's like I play whatever costs the amount of mana I have, and it is hard to deal with. And the next turn I do the same thing, and then eventually I close you out with Hero Power and Call of the Wild. So yeah, Hunter is like, I wouldn't call it like OP or anything right now, but it does have some of the most OP cards, and Call of the Wild is, I think, a broken card.
And I think this is why I say I'm sad about the Call of the Wild ban, because although I feel, yes, it is a extraordinarily powerful card, I like that, Hunter was penned into Face Hunter for so long. And then, mid-range Hunter was kind of okay, but then, Call of the Wild came and it was like, okay, now Hunter has mid-range with a finisher, and this is great. Like, it's a fun to play, viable Hunter deck. And so, like, Hunter's just rising out of the Face Hunter ashes, and then they're, like, banned.
Well, no, they're not
Makes me
banned. Just
sad.
these guys are banned.
I know, but
everyone else can use it. It's one tournament.
Yeah,
I know it's one tournament, but I'm just saying that it makes me sad to see that that's the community vote.
Don't worry,
I don't want
Jocelyn.
to see it thing, because I want to see Hunter. That's all I'm saying.
Hunter's gonna be fine.
To me,
Don't
of all the bands from the community bands, Fiery War Axe seems to be the saltiest of bands. That to
Yeah.
me, that looks. I'm going to call that the of course pick, because that's the type of thing that every salty player yells. Of course, you had Fiery War Axe on turn 2.
Yeah, but I think
Well, and it's been around since the start, right? So people have been real salty about it for a really long time.
It is. It might still be, and always has been, the best card in Hearthstone, just because of the fact that it costs 2 mana, right? So it costs 2 mana, deals 3 damage twice, and there's no other card in the game where you can say, "Oh yeah, 2 mana to deal 6 damage." It just doesn't really exist, So,
Really
and the
good.
fact that it comes out so early allows you to just deal with anything like that. What can the opponent play that you cannot deal with a coined out Fiery War Axe, right? There's basically nothing. So, it's also, if you look at Warrior has been one of the strongest classes in competitive play for a really long time. And if you were to say ban Brawl, that wouldn't do anything to Dragon Warrior and Tempo Warrior, right? Because they don't play it anyway. Like, this is the ban that actually affects any type of warrior you play. So this, knocks Warrior down a notch, allowing for other classes to move in. So we might actually see a Priest deck, because Warrior's not just, holding it down. We might actually see a Paladin deck. We might actually, we might see some of those decks that we can't see because everyone's like, I have to bring Warrior. I have to bring Druid. I have to, and that's, I think, what these guys are going for. And remember, these are community bans, by the way, but like, that's what Firebat's going for, is all the oppressive stuff. Like, it's not that the players want to be playing those classes. It's just that it's stupid of me not to bring this class, right? It's stupid of me not to bring Warrior, because it has Fiery War Axe. Why would I not have this class, right? So,
and that's not the
that's
only
the point here.
ridiculous weapon getting banned. Tice banned Doomhammer out, so no Doomhammer for Shamans. Strife Crow got rid of Darkshire Councilman.
That's interesting, because he plays a lot of Zoo in tournaments, but
Yeah.
Maybe he's tired of playing Zoo.
maybe he's sick of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I would ban Imp Gang Boss before I would ban Darkshire Councilman. I freaking hate that card.
It
I
drives me a bit
find
bananas.
Gang Boss is harder to deal with for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chalky banned Ice Block we talked about. Innervate by Super JJ. That just, oh my, how do you build Druid without Innervate?
Well, the thing is, like, now it opens you up to be able to ramp with just things that players can play around. Like, you've got your Wild Growth, and all the other kind of mana ramp that's built into minions and stuff mid game. Like, it's stuff that players can see happening and know what's going to come, versus Innervate, where any possible turn against a Druid, they could just have 2 more mana because Druid reasons. So I think
this kills Druid, though, honestly.
You
in this
think so?
tournament. Yeah, I think literally 0 people bring Druid because there's no Innervate.
And that's not
'Cause,
it for Druid either.
Druid is kind
there's
of
no
inherently
Fandral too, so
Yeah, Kalento
Druid is
Fandral.
kind of
Fandral.
inherently weak without the ability to ramp, right? When you play Druid and you don't Wild Growth or get an Innervate turn, you kind of just lose. They lack good removal. You can do this kind of style where you play big minions, but the big minions don't really work when they come out exactly on curve and they're not cheated out. So, yeah, I think we'll see 0 Druid in this tournament. If we do, it'll probably be like a Beast Druid or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I was going to say. I think we'll see Beast Druid, but then Kalento banning Fandral, gives a lot of strength to a lot of Druid decks, is the ability to get 2 things for 1 instead of having to make that choice. So I think, between those 2, and obviously no Yogg, so no Spell Druids.
That's the I mean, I think Druid got hit the hardest. I think people are sick of it, though, and with good reason. It's been in like every single tournament. You look at a bunch of tournaments recently, every player in the top 8 had a Yogg token Druid, or last tournament was a Yogg Malagos Druid, and it's just been so prevalent.
Yeah, even pre-standard. I mean, we had all of the combo Druids. Like, Druid was just so, like, I mean, it's been top, like, brought by everyone for so long. Exactly, yeah. We can't pull any more Druids from our deck.
Yep. Osaka got rid of Ragnaros.
I like that one. I like that one because Ragnaros' RNG is just so, it's
Swinging.
Defining, right? It's, if you looked at Chalky when he won DreamHack, if his Ragnaros doesn't hit a concealed auctioneer, he doesn't win that tournament. But it did, and he did win the tournament. And it's like a moment like that being kind of out of the player's hands is, I think, what they don't want to happen. The pros don't like that.
Yeah. Tides got rid of Doomguard, and Ness got rid of Prep.
Wow, Prep, huh? Targeting those those oppressive rogues.
Well,
Kind of. They're all almost targeting anything that really cheats
Cheats.
mana.
Yeah, they're
anything
targeting
that
mana cheating. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
yeah, and also if you know that you're going into a tournament that it's going to have multiple cards banned out, I think it's that's
Rogue might be real good.
exactly. That's the thing. Like
Innovate's
all of a
gone,
sudden,
yeah.
like Yogg's gone, Call of the Wild's gone. All of a sudden, Ragnaros is looking kind of
Yeah.
hot. I mean, I don't know what Hunter's putting Ragnaros in, but and same.
No, but like a Miracle Rogue with preps and stuff, with all this other crap gone, right?
yeah,
That might just be the top deck by a long shot,
I agree.
So,
Freeze Mage is gone. I think
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well,
the
and see,
problems.
like we keep saying like gone, but I don't necessarily know if it's gonna be gone. They might just be iterated on, given the other bans.
A lot of these are gone. Freeze Mage is gone. Freeze Mage is out. Druid is out.
Druid, as you know,
Let's
it
be
is
honest.
out unless someone gets real weird with Druid. Like Innervate being gone, like just
Yeah.
oh man, it just changes the landscape for Druid
Innovate, Yogg,
dramatically.
Fangirl, all gone. Mm-mm.
Dramatically.
And I don't even
Drastically.
know what
Go
type
me.
of warrior I would bring without Fiery War Axe. I really don't. Like, what would be the good type of warrior?
Without
no
Fiery
clue.
War Axe.
Probably still Dragon. You've got Alex Strauss as champion.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, that's a key part of what makes them good is the ability to do so many good things on two, right?
I feel
Fairy
like
Dragon, Alex
you
Strauss is champion,
could
Fiery
you
War
could-
Axe.
I think you could still force Pirate Warrior.
Yeah, just
They gave me ways-
rely on Nazas first mate.
Yeah, man. No, seriously. I mean, it's still like if you get that out and you
know.
start buffing it, I mean, you can make a welfare Fiery War Axe.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Okay, here's my prediction. My prediction is tempo mages
Yeah.
all over the place.
Oh yes.
And probably
Tempo
Reno
mages
Lock.
everywhere.
And
I
Reno Lock.
was
Because without Fiery War Axe, my Mana Worm lives.
Forever.
My Mana Worm goes crazy, and I come at your face with it.
and I definitely go priest and put 2 Shadow Word Pains in my
Sure.
priest deck if I know this. I would definitely bring a priest
Yeah,
to this
Res
tournament.
Priest. Yeah, because no one touched Priest at all. They were just like, yeah, come on, bring it.
I think Res Priest would be pretty sweet. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it would work quite well here.
I think so.
You don't have the Barnes, obviously, which is so
Obviously.
key to the Res Priest. I mean, it is really.
It's
I don't
not,
think
it's
Barnes
just more.
is key to like anything.
No.
I think Barnes is just good.
It's funny that
Yep.
the community voted Barnes out when I don't think Barnes would be breaking any decks here. But the community was just like, get that RNG out of here.
Yeah, I don't. Also, Barnes hasn't been around long enough for me to feel as tired
Salty?
with it
Yeah.
as other cards. I definitely don't feel that Barnes is as big of an issue as something like Yogg-Saron or
Well, he fizzles so much.
Tuskar.
He fizzles so many times and is just a 3-4 and a 1-1.
yeah, and it's based off the cards in your deck. It's not like it's some. We're gonna talk a lot about this in strategy, but talk about range of RNG. Like
yeah, RNG range is a huge deal. And
Barnes has
Barnes
a range.
limits that automatically, right? So
It pulls from your deck. It does give information to your opponent. I'm not saying it's a bad card by any means, and I'm not saying that you don't just throw it in because it's just that damn good. You do, but I don't think it's that bad. Barnes was probably the one that surprised me the most. Like I was like, Yogg, okay, no surprise. Tuskar Totemic, totally kill it with fire. Fiery War Axe, all right, it's gone, makes sense. Call of the Wild, all right. Barnes, I don't know. I was surprised not to see Flamewaker. That's the card I'm surprised.
Flamewaker, yeah, actually, that
most
was mentioned
surprised
in
not to
chat.
see banned.
yeah, that was mentioned in chat, and I think that's actually a bigger offender for sure.
Yeah.
Because those it's the random missiles, it's the knife juggler effect and the flame juggler effect, like all that kind of stuff, and that's one of the things like Rainhead talks a lot about in his videos. Like these are the type of effects that actually make the game less fun, because I understand that there's tragedy. I just turned into like a 5-year-old kid again. There's strategy to these, and you can control it to a certain extent, right, by giving yourself a better chance to do the outcome you want. But ultimately, one person's always mad at the outcome, and that's the problem with those cards, right?
Yep.
So, like if I play Tuskar Totemic and I get a healing totem, I'm not necessarily mad about that.
You make it work.
It's like, okay, well, that was one of the possible outcomes. But when a dagger goes somewhere, kills a thing, and I needed that to happen, and it changes the whole game, my opponent is definitely mad. If it doesn't do it, I'm definitely mad, because it was like, 50-50. So
Everything's 50-50.
One thing that we actually should clarify, because it was asked a couple times in the chat room, is that when we're talking about card bans in this tournament, this is just from the deck building phase. Obviously, they're not making, this is no like hidden tournament mode. There's no changing to any code. So if the card is legal in the format, then you can pull it from random effects. So
yeah,
they could still
Malcazar.
get innervate out of something, or
Malcazar
they could
is
choose
going in
innervate off
everyone-
a Raven Idol, or
Sure.
but they can't put it into a deck.
You can't stop that.
Everyone's going to play Malcazar in hopes to get Yogg.
Man. Well, build a Yogg deck, put Malcazar in it, and hope
And
that I get Yogg.
yeah, pray to Yogg.
And pray to Yogg. Yep, indeed. Bring your tentacle charms and hope for the best. Well, let's cue a Broad laugh. Because it's time for Broad Bellows. Ben Broad has been a little chatty on Twitter this past week, talking about his thoughts on Standard in the upcoming year of 2017. He said, reading feedback on Standard and whether things will change enough in 2017. If we think they won't, we'll make tweaks to ensure freshness. And he went on to say, not sure yet if that's nerfs like we did with Old Gods or something else like moving cards to Wild like we did with Murkai. Now, this was horribly unspecific because then my brain goes with, well, I feel like the rules say you can only move things from Classic into Wild, but is he talking about moving stuff from things that technically should be Standard legal early into Wild?
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
that's what he's discussing. So maybe something like move Yogg into Wild.
I was gonna say, yeah, obviously Yogg is the first card that comes to mind.
All right.
I'd be all for it.
Yeah, no, okay, I was going to ask, because I've mentioned on the show before that I kind of hate Yogg, but I kind of love Yogg, and I would like him to go to Wild. I would like Yogg to go to Wild untouched, unscathed. So
He feels like a wild card to me already.
given... Let me give you two options. One, nerf Yogg and keep him in for a year, or put him in Wild early and leave him alone. Which do you prefer?
I like to throw him in Wild right now. I say do it
Okay.
as soon
I
as
was
the
gonna
next set
pick
comes
nerf,
out. Yeah.
but
Yeah, but if he gets
I
nerfed,
the
he's like
idea-
unplayable. You know.
No, but but I like the idea of like the one we were talking about earlier of if he kills himself,
Yeah,
he
he
stops
stops
casting. Yeah.
that's actually all right too. I'd be okay with that if he's. But the thing about that is that makes him like I think pretty much just unplayable. You just never see him ever
Right.
again. So, you know, and in Wild, like okay, so in Wild, maybe he's oppressive there because there's just so many more spells to choose from and all that kind of stuff. But I also feel like unless we're making Wild like a really and I don't think, you know, I think there will be a day where Wild will be really competitive because the decks are going to be just so perfectly refined to what they're trying to do. But we're not even there yet. So for now, it's like, yeah, just let that just be the place where crazy stuff happens,
And
right?
that's the thing. Like, I want to throw Yogg on the board 3 years from now when there's an obscene amount of spells in the game.
Yeah, and have it in just a fun format where you're just, you know, in there to see what craziness ensues, right?
Yeah.
Which, and for me personally, as somebody who likes to stream and likes to stream fun decks that fun things happen and craziness happens, I like Yogg to actually be a card that I can use because obviously there's really fun moments, you know? You throw Yogg out and he kills you and everyone laughs. You throw Yogg out and he does some amazing craziness and you win the game. That is really good for the game as far as a casual streamer, someone who's just kind of streaming for fun. When you're streaming high level competitive play, that's a different set of, you know, rules to what you want to see, and there you don't want to see that kind of thing. So, you know, I don't want him to just be like a card that sucks and can never be played, because then it's not as fun.
Yeah. So that's okay. It sounds like we're on the same page. Do you think there will be any fallout from the community? Do you think there'll be a vocal majority that's angry that cards that they may have spent a lot of money to acquire are heading to Wild earlier than originally expected? Because I'm sure there will be somebody,
Yeah.
but do you think it'll be a big enough issue that Team 5 should be concerned?
I think it just all comes down to communication, which they seem to be struggling with lately. So I think as long as they give, it's very similar to when they brought Standard in the first place. You know, like as soon as they say this card is not going to be available, there needs to be enough time for people to kind of adjust and not craft and, you know, kind of work around that. Because the thing is, everything is still going to be legal in Wild. That's the whole point that we have Wild. So it's not like anyone is losing money. It's just that it's no longer in the competitive standard form, which really and truly, like, you can just go play Wild, and if you're not trying to get to BlizzCon, then there's no reason you can't play in Wild.
True. I think you can't, if you're Blizzard, don't make any decisions being worried. Like, don't feel worried about negative feedback from a set of players who are only thinking of themselves. Just make the right choice based on the game itself, right? And the health of the game. Because if if all you're worried about is some guy screaming out that he just dusted a bunch of things to get Yogg, then you're not making the choices based on the right criteria.
Yeah.
So,
but then you just dust Yogg and you get your full dust back.
Well, that's the thing.
Making a change, and
they would
I'm sure that's what it would be.
They would have to set that precedent, right? Because this has never.
But they
happened
didn't do
before.
that last time. When well, you're saying if Yogg moves early,
yeah, if Yogg moves early,
and that's what I was trying to throw a little asterisk with, which is they would have to set that precedent because this has never happened before.
Sure. So. I wouldn't mind seeing. I think the healthiest thing to do is every time there's a set rotation to bring along with it a few other alterations too. So do a couple of card nerfs and stuff based on what's going on, even to cards that not necessarily all just classic cards, but cards that are sticking around. Reevaluate and make sure that those are all in places that you want them to be. Do that as you introduce new cards, as old cards go away. So you really just it's kind of like you just fine tune the game right as you make your tweaks, right? Yeah. And you can just kind of have that be the way it works going forward. So we always know, okay, new cards are coming, and here's some changes, and then okay, cool, a lot of new stuff to wrap my head around, a lot of new ways to play the game. Everything kind of gets really fresh all at once, right? I would like to see that be kind of the system that they use.
I think there's a discussion to be had there. If let's say that's what they go with, if they only make changes at the beginning of a new year when a new set falls into Wild and a new set is released, do you worry that we're just going to have a repeating issue every year where you get to BlizzCon and the biggest complaint, the biggest problem card of the year that everyone's been complaining about is still the top card that is seen and is winning the HCT?
That's definitely could be a problem. I think the real answer though to this is don't put yourself in any boxes if you're Blizzard. You have a digital game.
That's what I was
make the choices when they need to be made, right? Never say this is how it is, this is always how it's going to be, and then you can just do what's right for the game at the time, right? So that's what I they didn't used to have that attitude, but I think they've shifted on that one.
I believe that the language that they used when Standard was coming in was saying that basically at the end of each year or like the beginning of the new one, that's when they would take time to look at things and see if there needed to be any nerfs or changes. I think that's what they said. I could be wrong, but I thought they said that there was going to be like a review period sort of thing before the start of a new Standard year.
Yeah.
They may or may not make any nerfs or buffs or changes or whatever, but just that, yes, they were planning to review on an ongoing basis before the start of the new Standard year.
But we have seen in the past, like Warsong Commander gets changed, boom, out of nowhere.
Randomly,
right? So when a card is a problem, they have proven that they will go in and just do it, take care of the problem as needed. Right?
I would also argue that they've proven that they probably take a little too long to do that.
Sure. No, absolutely. I'm with you there. I think in a perfect world where, obviously, like they want to make sure that they make the right decision, right? Mm-hmm. And we could argue again about whether Warsong Commander was the right decision because we obviously all didn't think so. But I think in their mind they were like, we want to make sure that how we do this is going to be the right way. So let's spend some time. Let's talk about it. Let's test some things out. Ultimately, they land on what they land on. We might have a differing opinion on that, but I think that's probably what slows down the process more than anything, is just not wanting to just pull the trigger real quick and then do the wrong thing, and then have to go back and fix it again. Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to probably talk a little more about this in our strategy segment. So let's just move into that. But before we do that, let's thank our patrons over at patreon.com/TAC for supporting the show. You guys are the reasons we do extra episodes. We already talked about the new goals at the top of the show, so go check that out. This episode, thank you to Rad Gamer Risky, Dusty H, Igor, Matt, Adam L, Alex F, Dorian N, and Spencer C. Thank you all so much for supporting the Angry Chicken. We really do appreciate it. It's still kind of nuts to think about how much extra stuff we're putting out thanks to you guys. So thank you. Now, let's get into this week's strat discussion.
Hit it very hard.
Wanna blow something up? Time to pay!
Didn't even really need the bumper because this kind of just ties into everything else we've been talking about this episode.
Yeah,
But
this is like one giant segment of a show today.
yeah, yeah. So we were talking to you earlier, Dills, thinking about doing decks today. It's like, oh, you know what? Raynad put up an interesting video. PC Gamer had a big article recently called "What's Wrong with Competitive Hearthstone." Raynad's video is about counterplay. If you haven't seen it, go to Raynad's YouTube and check it out right now because we're going to be referencing it to a bit, and we don't want to just rehash what Raynad said. You should go give him your eyeballs.
Yeah.
Well, that
I'll
sounds
give you
weird.
those
Give them the
cliff
views.
notes, though.
Yeah.
The cliff notes are essentially that cards that cannot be played around are a problem, right?
Yeah.
So cards like Yogg, I mean that's the clearest example. You can't play around Yogg, right? Yogg is going to come out and do what it does. I guess the one way to play around Yogg is try not to overload the board or something.
I would say
it happened, but
I would say play a different game. Is
Sure.
how you play
Yeah,
around
yeah.
Yogg. You just don't
but
play
I mean, like
Hearthstone.
playing around Flamestrike is not the same as playing around Yogg. Like playing around Flamestrike is like, okay, I'm pretty sure he has Flamestrike in his hand. I can make that assessment based on how they've played some previous turns. It looks like maybe they're letting me have creatures on the board looking for a big value Flamestrike, so I can assume safely that they do have it. So I'll just, as a paladin, I'll just hit my button rather than play out another minion with less than 4 health, right, and spend the mana on him. And then I'll be able to reload the board after the turn they play Flamestrike. But playing around Yogg is a little different, and the ability to play around cards is actually a really healthy thing for a competitive game, in just any game. And we could say that's the same for Overwatch, Heroes of the Storm, any MOBAs, any if you're playing like Counter-Strike, all those games, right? Being able to see, like, kind of predict what the opponent is going to do and then do something different to counter that is a huge thing. And it's what makes games have that kind of strategy. That, like, I feel at the end of a game when I made a really good call, a really good read, played around a card, then they actually had the card, and then it worked, and then I won the game. That's a really satisfying feeling in a game like this, right? Whereas when I just played my minions on curve and beat his face in, or I just played Yogg and it did crazy stuff and won me the game, that's a less satisfying victory, right? And both players walk away feeling like there was nothing I could do. And I'm sure you played a lot of games where it's like, well, he played 2 Call of the Wilds in a row. What was I supposed to do? Like, there was nothing to be done there. And that's not a good feeling in a game. So you want to have cards you can play around. And so I think a card like Ivory Knight is a great example of here's how you can do some RNG in a game like this and have it be really good, right? Because you heal, I see the amount you healed, I now kind of know a range of cards that you could have in your hand, right? Based on that. Or, cards like Discover a Dragon, cards like Discover a 1-cost card.
Yeah.
You do that, and then I now know here's the range, and now I can start to think about what that card could be, and suddenly we have this kind of it's an evolving game. The game is different than the last game, but rather than his example in the video was Swashbuckler, I play it, I get any card from your class, and I don't know what that is. Any card from your class goes into my hand. How do I now play around that? Like, what do my, what's my range is so huge that there's no way for me to then predict the card that you may have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not introducing counterplay. That's not introducing strategy into the game. That's literally just randomness for the sake of randomness, right? And that's not necessarily, I think, the type of randomness that Brode has been kind of pushing for so long in all of his conversations. So, if you really want, like, I totally suggest everyone watch this video because this is like Raynad at his best, right? Is when he's not salty Raynad, when he's not like calling it a child's card game and all that kind of stuff, when he's actually evaluating things and what makes the game maybe not as good as it could be. He does have a really good mind for that kind of stuff. So check the video out, but that's essentially the point, right? Is counterplay is good. Not introducing counterplay, just introducing randomness is bad. So I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Would you agree with that, or do you have an argument for just blatant randomness?
This version of Raynad is my card game spirit animal. It's hard. It's really hard to argue with. And I think this is at its core. Even though, I mean, if you go and watch this particular video ran at, it's him being as like calm and collected and as you'll ever see him. But I think this at its core is it absolutely gets to the root of why people have the reaction that they have to the cards in Hearthstone that they have them.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're not seeing. I mean, look, people complain about mad scientists. So that I would go into now the PC Gamer article, which makes a second argument, because I think, a card like Mad Scientist, the problem with it really is that it set a power level that was so high that if other cards didn't match that power level, you basically, like, those cards were just bad, right?
Yeah.
Because this card exists. So, and then this is what, they get to in the PC Gamer article, which is, I think, interesting, is there's randomness, which is a problem. And then there are cards that are just way too powerful for their mana cost, which are also a problem, because those can't be played around. And he actually uses Call of the Wild, which we talked about earlier, as one of those examples. Like, that card should cost, way more mana than it costs, right? For 8 mana, that is such a deal for what you're getting that the card is just oppressive, because, in other, if they draw it, they win, right? And he uses Reno, which I would argue Reno's not necessarily an example of this, but I get his point. His point was essentially that Reno is such a good card for what it does that games can be decided based on, did I draw it or did I not draw it, right? And again, that's like taking out counterplay. There's nothing, but you could argue that once you identify someone as playing a Reno deck, then there is a counterplay to you where you can say, okay, now I need to pressure them. I either need to pressure them now, so then I make a decision. I try to kill them before Reno gets drawn, or I try to draw the game out, force them to play Reno for less value, and then kill them after Reno. So there is like some form of counterplay there, but it's still that same sort of idea that, you're just playing around, like, hoping they don't draw it. That's not really playing around anything. That's just flipping a coin and hoping that in this game they do not draw the card that you cannot beat, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's all really good points. I mean, it all boils down, I think, points of a much larger conversation that we've had over the course of 171 plus episodes.
Yeah.
But for some reason, this is a huge topic right now, and I find it fascinating too, because it's right after a release, and I think that's the reason that there's such a spotlight on Hearthstone in a critical fashion right now, is because there's so much talking about how Hearthstone needs to be improved when we supposedly just got an improvement to the game.
True. Yeah. But I think, okay, so if you look at other games, right? So let's say you're playing, like, Overwatch is a great example of there's always a counterplay. And that's maybe what makes the game very strong, right? Is that no matter what the opponent is doing, we can swap heroes and change our entire composition to try to literally counter what they're doing.
Yep.
And so there's so much counterplay in a game like Overwatch. I don't know if you can try to make Hearthstone ever have that much, because I don't, technically it's impossible. You build your deck and you go in not knowing what the other guy's deck is going to be. And that's part of the, that's part of the allure of it, right?
Yeah, but that's...
So I get, no, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I mean, that's card games in a nutshell, but
Sure.
That's where you have to craft the game in a way that you can still allow counterplay, and that's why you should be rewarded for building your deck in a certain way. And I think at its core, that's what all of the discussion about the issue of counterplay is you're not feeling rewarded. I mean, Raynad brought up multiple times the feeling of that you're playing alone, that you're not playing against an opponent, that that with cards like Yogg Saron, you can just play hoping they don't draw it, basically hoping you're not making any informed decisions. You might as well be playing against an AI.
Yeah. And there's lots of decks, and they've talked about this, fun and interactive, right? Like, the fun and interactive part is something that they value. And so, Freeze Mage is a big kind of, without RNG, Freeze Mage is a big, just a huge problem in a game like this, where they're just playing by themselves, right? They're not really playing with you. They're sitting there just drawing their cards and hoping that they get them in the right order where they can just murder you in one turn, right? Same thing with, like, Miracle Rogue. You're just literally watching a guy just draw his whole deck and do whatever he wants. And, like, you sit back and there's nothing you can do. You just sit there and you watch it happen. And then either they get there or they don't, right? And you could say Yogg is the same way. You see that they're just playing a bunch of spells. All they're really doing is kind of just clearing the board, waiting for this turn to come, and then hoping for the best, right? And those games aren't really fun to play. I now would argue maybe even those decks aren't that fun to play as. And you can also argue that those decks bring a lot of strategy, like the Freeze Mage versus Freeze Mage at BlizzCon. Everyone talked about was like one of the greatest matches ever. Tice versus Osaka. But if it's not that exact matchup, then is it that fun to watch, right?
I was going to say, yeah, that's very, very specific, though. Like Freeze Mage on Freeze Mage, that's where you do kind of get interactive, because then you have to figure out, like, how do I make my opponent make mistakes? Like, how do I make sure that I'm poised to win before he's poised to win?
Mm-hmm.
And, so I think Freeze Mage on Freeze Mage is a very, very specific case.
Sure.
And so I don't really think that that's the same.
You can't use that as an example to say Freeze Mage is totally fine.
Exactly, yeah, because there are like 8 other matchups where you're just playing with yourself.
Sure. And like a Miracle Rogue versus a Miracle Rogue.
Sorry.
A Miracle Rogue versus a Miracle Rogue doesn't have that same kind of play, because it's basically who draws Auctioneer, plays it first, has a big Auctioneer turn, draws into their whatever their win condition might be, whether it's a Leroy or whatnot. So, yeah, this is a problem in this game. Do we want the game to be always? Do you want every game to have counterplay, or do you not? So I guess my question is, like, do you lose fun factor when you just deal with this problem head on? If this is your main goal, is make sure counterplay is possible. Because think about Magic, right? I bring one deck, and come to my tournament, and then I play against a deck that I'm very unfavored against.
Mm-hmm.
But after game 1, I sideboard in some cards that alter that matchup, right?
Right.
And Hearthstone does it a little bit different, where I bring multiple decks, and then after game 1, I, choose a different deck or whatever. But like on the latter, like, are we taking out fun if we're making sure that every matchup has this kind of counterplay mechanic? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I think at the end of the day, it is a balance. It is a balancing act. There needs to be a certain amount of both. We need RNG. It is part of it is at the core of Hearthstone. You need it. I am definitely 100% on the bandwagon of RNG needs to have a range. I feel like that's like when you watch a politician say, "I am for education." Like, it's just a really safe thing to say, and I think the majority of players out there would agree that yes to RNG, but also have a range in there. And don't have it be something absurd like Crackle. Why not? There you go, everyone. I made a Crackle reference.
Sweet. Thanks, man. We missed the Crackle.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've crackled.
Exactly. But the Discover mechanic, I feel, has been just wildly successful because of that fact. It has even injected a small form of limited Hearthstone into our constructed Hearthstone, which I love. I mean, if I think of one mechanic that I think is the best thing in the history of Hearthstone, I think it is Discover. But
let's say they go back and they change all of the cards that just say random on them to then say discover. Like, does the game get less fun? Like, I would actually argue it gets more fun. They'd have to balance each one of those cards, because the reason, like, Swashbuckler is a 1/1 for 1 that can then grab any random card. The card can be terrible, right? So that's why that's like a balanced card. It essentially draws a card, which may do nothing. Whereas if you want to draw a card from your deck, that's got to have more of a cost to it, right? That's got to be like a novice engineer, which is range 1/1 for 2.
Let's take the rage discussion further and using Swashbuckler, and I'm also going to pull in our old buddy Yogg, because no one's tired of hearing about Yogg-Saron.
He's just the best example.
I'm going to pull. Let's look at Swashbuckler. Let's look at Yogg-Saron, because what I hear over and over again from people who are like, no, Yogg is fine, the defense is always, do you know how many games I've lost when I played Yogg? And that is just so not the point. It's like the point I want to get across is you are missing the point. It's the chance that it can be so amazing. And I think I see that as a misstep. I see that as a flaw in the design philosophy of Team 5. I think that they think Yogg-Saron and Swashbuckler are balanced because you can completely ruin the game for yourself. Swashbuckler can draw you dead cards. You can get Shield Bash and not have armor from playing a warrior, and they're dead cards. Yogg-Saron can lose the game right then and there. That is not the point.
We even got people in chat saying Yogg is fine right now. Here.
Yeah,
just proving your point.
Exactly.
Proving your point.
Well, I mean, I poked the bear in this point. But
well, if you play a game for 25 minutes and then it comes down to just complete random chance, like, is that good? Is that good for the game? And I think that's the argument.
Yes.
That no.
But the
same argument can be made for something like Brawl. Like, you play this control matchup, control warrior versus control warrior, and then it comes down to which minion lived off of the Brawl. Not necessarily good there either, and that's why I really do like, and I wish those cards were better. But the Enter the Coliseum card for Paladin, where it's like We know what's going to happen here. It's still kind of doing this effect, but it's now very controllable. And you don't see the other day, I had 6 minions on the board. Guy plays 1 minion, plays a brawl, his minion lives, and I just lose a game that I was definitely supposed to win, right? And I'm okay with the brawl happening as long as, the chance, it's just that it's so frustrating when that's the game you lose, right? In that fashion. And that made the game unfun for me, right? That game that was going along, pretty fun, doing cool stuff, suddenly became unfun, right? And that's the bad side of the RNG, when it becomes unfun.
Yeah.
And Discover is fun, man. Discover's super fun. You can control the RNG that way. There's also things like, draw, when they limit the pool to death rattle cards, or they limit the pool to cards that cost this amount of mana, then you get that range, and then you can have a thought process. But when it's just like, here's a thing happened, no one knew why, it just happened, there's no thought process there. So, it's like, I understand Yogg is fun, and I don't want Yogg to go away. But I want Yogg to live in a place where we're all there for the same reason, right? Which is just to have fun. And then when I want to be competitive, Yogg isn't in my competitive game, right? Mm-hmm. That's I think the point.
Yeah, and this is I could go down. Can we go down? Let's go down a rabbit hole. Let's go down a rabbit hole about
Dig it up. Let's go.
I'm going to argue that this ties in to tournament mode and a more robust arena experience, or even a new arena experience, or just a new experience. Maybe I don't even call it arena. I think just having more ways to play this game, iterating upon base Hearthstone, the buttons on the screen when you go in, giving us more ways to play will make it better, because they want it to be fun. They want it to be wacky. You know what? We have Tavern Brawl. You don't need to make constructed competitive Hearthstone as wacky as you have been making it. You have a mode for that. You can make it fun in Tavern Brawl. We have an adventure once a year where you can be nuts and just lather on the flavor of Hearthstone all over this thing. Let's rein things in, please.
Yeah, I mean, look, the truth is, when Rained's like this, and he's talking in this fashion, and he's being, he's giving constructive criticism, he makes a lot of very good points. I think the points we make, and we do a show where we're critical of Hearthstone, but we love the game of Hearthstone. We love Team 5. I would consider a lot of the developers there close friends of mine, that if I saw them at a bar, I would have a beer with them and talk for hours, right? The fact is, though, the game is maybe going a little bit too far in one direction, and I would like to see it have those elements, but not in a way that breaks it, right? So, because when we talk about the classic set, and when the game first came out, there was this kind of magical feeling of there's a lot of strategy and skill here mixed with some cool effects, and you never really kind of know what's going to happen. And now we've kind of gotten to the point where, every time they print cards, there's a certain number of them that say the word random, and now there's just a lot of them, right? Now there's just a lot of those cards. And the range of that randomness has gotten so big that we may have lost a little bit of what made Hearthstone so special at the beginning. And, and again, I don't want to play chess here. If I wanted to play chess, I would play chess.
Yep.
I do want to play Hearthstone, but there's a balancing act. There's a place in between those two extremes. And I know we can find it. And I'm sure that they hear our feedback, and they understand that we're not bashing the game. We're just talking about the concepts that are maybe not as enjoyable as they once were. So I don't know. I hope to see some motion in the opposite direction at some point, because right now it is. The community is not loud just to be loud. They're not just screaming because when you see pro players talking about the game is not in a great state anymore, those are voices that I think matter a lot.
Yeah,
so
yeah. The community can be loud just to be loud. If you missed it, go look up the Magic Amy scandal.
Sure.
But in this case, no. This is what I like to see on the subreddit. I like to see discussion of the game itself, not starting a witch hunt, not claiming someone is cheating when they're not. Sometimes they are. Fine, cool, you added a cheater. That's not what I come to a subreddit for.
No.
I like to see discussion about the game, and that's what's happening. And in this particular case, what is happening is we all seem to be focused, at least a majority of us, on how to make the game better, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? Would you rather see bans, or would you rather see changes to cards?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know. Bans to me feel bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, bans can shift with the meta. If they actually go in and change a card, then that card is changed and that's the end of it. So I feel like card changes are more permanent. Bans have the ability to change and adjust. So I think probably bans, but I still think they feel a bit bad.
I give it a caveat. If we get a tournament mode, I'm cool with bans. If we do not, well.
And are we talking like
So
when we say bans, are we talking about like in full-on competitive like championship HCT tournaments, or
Like what
are
they
we
do with- I'm
talking
talking
on
about what they
ladder
do with
or
arena, where they literally pull the card from the pool. So like if you play, so like moving Yogg to wild would essentially be a ban. Would be banning Yogg in
for
standard, right?
Yeah.
It'd be a standard
Yeah.
ban.
A standard ban. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I think that's why I kind of paused there. Is like I don't think it's necessarily that cut and dry. Like I think some cards are fine to go and change, and I don't think Team 5 should set a precedent. I think they should address it on a card by card basis. I think Yogg is absolutely insane. I think it is simultaneously one of the best and worst things about Hearthstone.
I think maybe we should try to look at this without Yogg in mind. Like pretend Yogg doesn't exist and look at the rest of
I'd
Hearthstone.
love to,
and
Jocelyn.
like
mm.
because I think
I
that
wanna
like
live in that world.
finding a solution for Yogg and what we should do for the rest of the game are potentially two different conversations. So if you are in favor of bans because Yogg exists, then like forget that for a second. Like, would you want to see something like Fiery War Axe just isn't allowed in standard anymore? Like, is that something that you would want to see, or would you rather see maybe a change in mana cost or something?
I would like to see a combination of the two, I think is the proper answer here. Like that some cards need to be just outright pulled out of the game, because what they do, if you changed it, you change the soul of the card, right? And obviously we don't want to do that. So like, Yogg, yeah, I mean that change we talked about earlier when he dies, whatever. But the problem I have with that is that just kills Yogg completely, and I don't get to have Yogg in my fun games, right? So to me, it's like that's a card where I'm like, yeah, keep it how it is, move it out of competitive play, and it's fine. But then like I do think that there are cards that are currently here that just a small tweak would make it fine, and we could just keep it around. It's not a big deal. We don't have to completely throw it out, right? So and plus, like when you tweak a card, it can still be like discovered. It can still be, and there's those types of moments can still matter. That card can still be impactful without being, broken. So like a Tuskar Totemic, maybe you could take that card and say this only summons basic totems, right? And maybe change its stat line a little bit, right? So because like the problem with that card is like, sometimes you just win and sometimes it's not anything. And those are the type of cards where I see those being an issue, where it's like this card might just win you the game or it might not. And so I play it and I hope. And then it's, that's not that fun, actually. It's just not that fun. It's not fun, when I play Tuskar Totemic and I get a totem goal, I'm like, oh, gross. That's gross. And then when I play against it and the guy gets totem goal, I'm like, damn, well, I guess I lose. And that feels bad. So those type of cards I want to see a slight change in. And then a card like Yogg, just pull it out. Put it off to the side, put it in the fun games. And then the thing is, like, I know people in chat are saying, like, oh, the game is fine, The pros, we don't need to make the game for the pros. But I think the point that I want to make is that you can make the game for everyone, and it's fine, and it can still be fine while making the game better. Like, making the game better doesn't ruin it every single time. Like, I know that sounds weird to say. That sounds like a dumb yeah, making the game better doesn't ruin it. But but what I'm saying is, like, you can make the game work in all the different areas if you allow yourself to think outside the box on this stuff. Like, just because this card exists and it came out at this time doesn't mean it has to stay in standard until it's destined time to move, right? This is a digital card game. They get to move stuff around, they get to tweak the numbers, they get to do all that stuff. And I want them to do it more often because it's right to do, and not just, we shouldn't do it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that feeling of just, we're not doing it because we said we wouldn't do it. Just do the thing that's right,
Do what you think is best for the game, not, we said this one
Don't
rule
just
one
stick to your
time, we're just
timeline.
going to stick to it.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's how you...
And we've seen this happen. Like you could say World of Warcraft right now is kind of fixing a lot of the problems that they had.
Oh,
but
man,
it would
are
have been
they?
cooler if they fixed them in Warlords of Draenor, right? I think we could all say that was it like it's awesome that Legion is so good. Would it have been cooler if they changed some of the stuff that sucked during Warlord, so we could have like continued to play WoW?
Could you have imagined a patch like, hey guys, garrisons kind of actually suck. It turns out we're
just
totally
pulling
off base.
garrisons.
They're gone. We're dropping a mana bomb on it. Garrosh came in, dropped a mana bomb. So sorry, that was our mistake. Here's we'll be patching in class order halls, whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, sure, that would be crazy. But also, like, that might have been a good idea. I don't know. Like, I'm kind of the school that we should just do whatever's right at the moment that it's right, and not worry about, the consequences of setting a precedent and all that kind of stuff. Like, just do it, man. If it's right, do it.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, what we landed on is that there's so many factors to consider for all of this, and it's I don't think there's always there's a guideline. There's not always a right answer. There are going to be people who disagree with us. There are people out there who just like Yogg, who just like it as it is. I lean into the camp of I think it's a cool card. I can't wait to look back on this as a moment in Hearthstone history. I'm just kind of annoyed living in it right now. So like disco's cool to look back on as a part of music history, but I can't stand it. So there you
Some
go.
of it's pretty good, but you're right. Like we're not going to please
Disco
everyone.
confirmed.
We're not going to please everyone, and that's not the point. The point isn't to please everyone because that's impossible, and so you don't even try to do that. You just don't. But if we could make the best game we could possibly make, then I would like to see that because I love the crap out of this game, you guys. Yeah,
I do too. I do too.
But it's like this is the game I spend the most time playing by far. Even with World of Warcraft coming out, I'm still playing Hearthstone. Like I still log in to do my stream, and I want to be streaming Hearthstone. I'm only level 103 on my main. Why? Probably because of Hearthstone. Like that's how much I love this game. A new friggin' patch came out, or a new expansion came out, and I didn't just like eat my whole life and take away all my game time from other games because Hearthstone's that good to me. So.
You're a rare breed.
I want to see it continue to be as good.
You're a rare breed because Legion definitely had that effect on me. But
sure, I know it had it on a lot of people, but I think for me, like every expansion before this, Hearthstone wasn't a thing. So now Hearthstone's a thing. It's not like Hearthstone's part of my daily routine and my like what I do every day, and I still enjoy the hell out of it. I don't want to see Hearthstone become a game that I don't enjoy anymore. So that's the thing. We just need to do the right thing for the game at all times, right?
Yep.
And not lock ourselves in, right?
Yuppers.
Like if you see an old lady crossing the street and like the light's turning red and she's gonna get hit by a car, you don't go like, well, I can't help her, the light's red. Like no, you go like, I just have to do it. This is the right thing to do right now. The red light says not to do it.
What an apt analogy.
Right?
Absolutely apt analogy. Well said. I'm sure we'll have a lot more words on this in the coming weeks. With that in mind, this went longer than usual, so let's just take a few emails and then wrap this up.
Hello?
Hello, it's me.
Hello?
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh.
Hello, brother.
You can send your emails to tacpodcast@gmail.com. Our first one comes to us from Dog Pig Rat, who wins the name game this week.
Wow. I love it.
Dear not overly angry chickens. That's because we didn't just lose a game to Yogg. Rogue is currently suffering at the moment in the current meta and has been for a while, particularly against the likes of your aggro shamans and face hunters. I feel in part this is due to the class's lack of early competitive minions, taunts, and healing and protection. Rather than design specific taunts and healers for Rogue, which I feel goes against the flavor of the class, I thought a cool solution would be for Blizzard to create a card/power where the Rogue hero is able to conceal itself, hence protect it from damage for a turn. This would effectively create a turn-based ice block for Rogue, be in line with the class's flavor, and perhaps keep the hero alive long enough to win a few more games. It would be great to know your thoughts on Rogue and the suggested improvement. First off, I don't think Rogue is bad because of a lack of taunts and healing.
I think this is very ladder specific, I think,
Yeah.
because especially right now, like we're still in the start of the month, so there are a lot of extremely, extremely aggressive decks,
Yes.
especially if you're playing kind of under rank 10, especially right now. It's just everyone is trying to climb really, really quick at the start of the month, get up to Legend. Legend is a whole other meta, basically, from the those of us scrapping it out at the bottom of the ladder. So I think this is just saying, like, if you're only facing face hunters and aggro shamans, which is quite common right now, then yeah, Rogue feels bad.
Yeah.
But not just that though. I mean, Rogue's lack of healing, which is definitely a very real problem for them. It becomes obvious because they have to use that dagger to control the board, right? So they take a lot of damage that other classes might not take. A lot of their removal is based around, like, I do 2 damage and then I do the 1 extra damage with my dagger, right? And that's how I manage the board. And when they used to have heal bot, this used to be fine because I knew at some point I could just heal up for 8. And is one of the reasons why you've seen people do things like Reno Rogue, is because they know that they can just take the damage knowing that they can heal. But without great healing options, you're seeing them play like Earthen Ring Farseer, which just doesn't do enough, right? Doesn't do enough to actually help them. So that's why the strategy with Rogue has kind of officially morphed into just try to get like one huge turn where I make a giant minion that you can't deal with, and then I finish you off with that in a mighty burst. That's why you're seeing like Questing Adventure come back and these big Edwin conceal turns and things.
Which I do love, because Questing Adventure has so much amazing flavor.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that card came
card.
back.
Yeah.
And I do like this idea because it does fit what Rogue does, right? I mean, you know, Vanish Vanish in WoW is you literally yourself vanish, go out of combat. You can then redo things that you couldn't do while you were in combat. So it kind of gives you a new power set, right? And Vanish in the game is just return all minions to the hand, and doesn't quite do the same type of thing, because then they just replay the minions. So yeah, it would be kind of a cool thing to conceal myself and then get myself 1 extra turn. You could kind of do it with what's that new card, the 4/3, the Violet Illusionist or whatever it is, the 4/3 that makes you immune on your turn, but it's not quite the same thing. So
no, this sounds like it would be like your hero on your enemy's turn just cannot be attacked.
It's shrouded, can't be attacked.
It's shrouded, yeah, exactly. The
Could
opposite
be hit with
of giving
random
your hero
effects
taunt
and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, random effects I think would still make sense, but like for instance, if you had the hunter hero power, then it would do nothing instead of 2.
So Ice Block costs 3 mana, and then it doesn't go off until you die. If this goes off the turn you decide to do it, and you're like, I don't know if that should cost less or more, because
Right?
the Ice Block happening only when you die is a pretty powerful effect, right?
Yeah.
Because it kind of like hedges your bet against, like, I don't know if it's this turn you're going to kill me or if it's 5 turns from now. I could just set it up, early on in the game and then just wait until it's there when I need it. This you'd have to time correctly, right? So I wonder how much mana, like this, could this be a 2 mana spell that maybe does something else, or is 2 mana OP? I don't know, but it'd be an interesting concept to try. I like it.
I like it too. I thought it was a really cool idea.
Yeah, I can dig it.
Plus, I want stealthy rogues.
To me, what I really want for rogues is I want them to get better weapons, man. I just want them to have better weapons.
That doesn't have to be.
Blade Flurry happened, and then another really cool weapon came. So.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather see weapon buff cards. I think because they already kind of have a weapon with their hero power. Yeah,
Yeah, more poisons.
Rogues are supposed to wield daggers, not giant axes, right?
With multiple poisons too. Like you can have 2 poisons at a time. So I think
slowing poison, right? Like you hit them, and then they only have half their mana next turn.
That'd be cool. Very, very powerful though.
Yes,
something like that. Like it's like you overload the opponent, kind of.
Yeah.
What do we call that?
Can you imagine if you did that on turn 10 and then you take 5 mana crystals away from them? That would be so ridiculous.
So it'd probably have to be like some amount, but I mean slowing them down essentially, right?
Yeah.
Like saying like you had this much mana this turn, and then now it's like I sapped 2 mana from you.
It would be
cool.
shaman oil. Clearly, would be. You go out and you get some.
I got shaman oil all over my dagger.
I mean, if you put it that way, I mean, I was gonna say you go out and get some fresh squeezed shaman oil from a shaman plant. I don't know. I got nothing, guys. I'm trying. Yeah, that would be real. I think they need new poisons. And dog pig rat, I really like this suggestion for
It's cool.
hero stealthing. It has to have a turn limit though. It can't be like the type of stealth.
Yeah,
that,
the one turn thing is probably the way it would go, right?
Yeah, and I do really like the idea of them still being able to be attacked by random things. So, if you played a good control game with your Cthulhu deck and you're just like, oh, damn rogue stealth, you can still kill them just with Cthulhu shots. Like,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, final email, Dills.
This comes from Ardell, who says, "Hey guys, I had an idea that I would love to see in place of Purify. Imagine if Purify's text was dispel a minion, then draw a card. Now dispel. Okay, so dispel a minion not friendly. Any minion that changes everything. Now dispel would be.
I think probably he means friendly minion.
Okay. Now dispel would be a new keyword distinct for priest, like how Druid has choose one. The dispel keyword would be as follows: remove all buffs, debuffs, silences, and transforms from target minions. This would reinforce the reactionary play of priest. It would also make priest a little more unique. What do you guys think?"
I think this is really cool because it would remove a silence. So if somebody has silenced your minion, you could basically unsilence your minion, as well as removing a transform. So if you get polymorphed, then you could dispel it and get your minion back. I think that would be super freaking cool.
I mean, it's a cool idea, but it doesn't happen often enough. I don't think this card would still see play because
Well,
how
that's the
often
thing.
do you get polymorphed, right?
Yeah.
In actual competitive play,
Against mid-range
it
shamans.
barely ever happens.
Mid-range shamans
Yeah.
are probably where you're seeing it the most right now.
Hexes would be
Yeah.
hexes happen more often than
Hexes.
anything else.
But still,
Um,
Hex would be the same thing because
I mean,
it's
it'd be-
transformed, right?
It'd be just added value because if you're removing buffs and debuffs,
It'd be the same card with 2 extra little effects.
Yeah. I also have a feeling if we get technical that they'd have to reprogram how transforms work and actually make it a keyword because as the game is currently concerned, if you transform something, it just becomes
It's
that.
done.
It has no knowledge of that whatsoever. If it dies, the frog goes into your graveyard, not the card that was transformed.
So here's another weird thing about it though. Like, if I'm calling it dispel,
Yep.
and now it sounds like one of the benefits of it is I can untransform something, right?
Yep.
Like, so let's say they hex a Sylvanas.
Yep.
Now I dispel Sylvanas. Now Sylvanas gets her death rattle back. Like, that seems weird to me. I could see.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
Death Rattles make
That
it a
seems
little
weird
bit
to me,
complicated.
like, that I dispelled her and then now she's like back to what she once was. Like, so I'm not sure, and that's the way that I could see this work, right? I could see this work where you play like a silence priest, where you silence your own cards, right? With like the 0 mana silence, and then can dispel their effects back onto them or something like that. That might be like a way that this would work. But yeah, I think you wouldn't ever see this because to me, like Blizzard would probably think of this as being a little bit too complex for the game and like a hard thing to grasp for players. But also, I think if it were in the game and it was still 2 mana to your own minions, I don't think this would see play anyway. I don't think this would fix Purify. It would still be a crappy card.
Yeah.
But it's a cool idea. I mean, I like we've heard about this forever. Like, just take off silence effects, take off transform effects. Revert cards back to what they once were. We've been hearing about this idea since the first show we ever did. Probably it's like something so many people see and go like, I wish there was a way to do this, unsilence. But really, what Blizzard has done is just remove silence effects from the game.
Yeah.
Such an extent that it's just not even a thing anymore, right? Like, silences happen so rarely now that it's not a problem. But it's an interesting idea. Very cool.
I think it's more the transforms that would make this really powerful. Like if you have a powerful minion and someone says, now it's a frog, you could be like, no, it's Sylvanas again.
Yeah.
So maybe
it seems
a
like
one
its
up.
own
It's
card,
definitely
though.
it's very reactionary, and I think that's the point. Is it something that can get priest back in, keep priest in a game, that kind of thing. Like, because I mean, I got polymorphed in WoW yesterday. I was a floppy little fish, and then Kyle went shaboom, dispel, and then I was me again, and that was awesome. Instead of being a fish for 9 seconds or whatever.
Sure. I think though, like until there's more of those effects prevalent in the game, because right now, what do you got? You got Hex and you got Polymorph. What else you got? I guess you could say that.
Hex, polymorph.
No, that's pretty much it.
Well, technically all of the druid cards transform, so it could also be something if it was able to target enemy minions. Then you could
that's a good
you
point.
get a 4/4 instead of a 4/6 if it's Druid of the Claw. And
and things like the who's the dude, draw a card if it's a minion turn into a chicken or whatever.
Tink Master? No.
Recombobulator.
Yeah.
No.
It's another little.
It's
a
a
but
3-mana
little,
3/2 that you only ever see in Arena. Yeah.
It's an
I know what
invention.
you're talking
It's
about.
an
Polymorph
invention.
boar. That's a good point too. Yeah, there's two
Oh
Polymorph
yeah,
polymorphs.
Polymorph 4. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's not a lot. That's a really good point.
Not
Tink
compa-
Master,
yeah,
that's
not-
the other one. See, the thing is, so like a card like Harrison, even with this many weapons in the game, still doesn't really see play all the time, right? And only gets played in certain metas. So until there's more effects like this, I don't think this card would ever see play.
Yeah. That being said, I think it would be cool to have a way to get rid of transforms,
Sure.
even though it's really niche. But hey, maybe
Yeah.
someday we'll actually get more features added onto this game to make it more complex instead of more fun, and we'll get things like sideboards.
Yeah, I guess as a sideboard card, sure, this makes total sense.
Yeah.
Well, if people are saying freeze, you can already silence freeze away.
Yeah, you can
so
silence
yeah.
freeze. Yeah.
Yeah.
that already happens.
Yeah. Oh no, Recombobulator is the one that transforms a minion into another one of the same cost.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
then
see, okay, would you be able to silence those?
and
off?
yeah, that would be
Would you
super
able to
weird.
silence
Just
off,
then,
like, evolve
then it's just
and stuff?
another freaking card. Yeah. And what about
Ooh,
all?
evolves.
Yeah. What about all evolve cards? Because it's not like it's transforming it into something specific that's only done to the transformer. It's just transforming it into another freaking card.
Yeah. So here's how you do this card. Then you have a dispel card, costs 3 mana. You can do it to any minion, and it draws you a card, and it dispels that minion. So you could, like, if an evolved shaman plays Master of Evolution on something, and it turns into something really powerful, you can be like, nope, it's back to what it once was, and I draw a card, 3 mana. There you go.
Yeah.
That's a card
like
I could
that.
see happening because there's enough cases where then this might make sense. You know.
Yeah.
You can also like pull buffs off of it and whatever. So like, Paladin puts Blessing of Kings. It also then acts essentially like a silence, right? So.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, two really interesting emails, I think.
I like when people send us concepts for cards, like new ideas for cards. That's
Yeah.
always fun to talk about.
Don't ask
get lots
us
of
to come
those.
up with concepts, but send us yours.
Yeah,
We
If
just
we're
wanna
gonna do
judge. We
that,
don't wanna
we'll
think.
plan that ahead.
Yeah, we don't want to do the work. We just want to sit here and judge your work, which is, what everyone on the internet wants to do. Consume and judge. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of The Angry Chicken. We talked about a lot today, which is hilarious because if you look at the notes, there wasn't a lot.
There's not much in there.
Nope.
It's actually like 3 hours before the show. I was worried we wouldn't have anything to talk about, but then I started kind of thinking about how there had been so much of this conversation, and that turned into a whole thing. Plus, it ended up there was a lot of news. I mean,
No, well, but the big thing was we already discussed Arena,
Sure.
which would have been a big topic on
That would've
today's
been a
show.
big
But
news,
yeah, there's so
Oh, the
much
bundle?
talk right now about the health of the
Oh.
game and how to make it better that I can see why today went as long as it did. So, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Josh Stills, thank you for joining. Thanks again to our patrons and our Patreon producers, Declan H. and Peter Williams. Thank you, guys. If you want to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/TAC. Drop us iTunes reviews if you're listening to us on iTunes and you dig the show. That helps us out quite a bit. As always, you can find this and many other shows over at emove.tv. Follow the show on Twitter at TAC Podcast, and we will be live next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern for the next Angry Chicken right over here on twitch.tv/emovetv or alphageekmedia.com if you need it on the go. Thanks to BrianGriffithMusic.com for our intro and outro music. Dills, where can folks find you?
you can check me out on Twitter. I'm at Willie Dills. Twitch.tv/WillieDillsSF. We'll be streaming throughout the rest of the week here. A lot of some WoW, so I hope you guys like that. But those streams are a little slower because I have to pay attention to things. But they're fun. I enjoy them. And then YouTube.com/WillieDillsSF as well. And there's a few decks I'm kind of tinkering with, but I think the next deck tech type of thing is going to be about the Malagos Yogg Druid. Yay, Yogg.
Yay. Way to hype your own work there, Dills.
Yeah.
I think my next
Look,
video
as
will...
long as Yogg is here, this is the thing. The pros are going to play the decks that they think will win them the games. And if Yogg is here, they will play the Yogg. So
Fair enough.
it's still worth talking about, and it's still worth teching the decks as long as it's part of the game. But once it does go away, I will be very happy to do lots of deck techs that do not involve Yogg.
Nice. Jocelyn, where can folks find you?
You can find me right here on A Move TV every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern for the Gamers In, and you can also follow me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays.
Fantastic. You can find me on Twitter at Garrett Art. All of the podcasts on amove.tv. I'd like to point out specifically Embrace the Spoilers, which I'm doing with you, Jocelyn. We've spoiled multiple things in the past, different movies, TV shows, but right now we're spoiling World of Warcraft, specifically Legion. We're going zone by zone, and the Azuna episode just went up yesterday. So head on over to amove.tv or search for Embrace the Spoilers wherever podcasts are found, other than Stitcher. F those guys. And get it, enjoy it, have a good time. That's going to do it for this episode of The Angry Chicken. Until next time, job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done.
Yes!